36, we left off where we were talking about going into Chris's jail logs from Weld, and they are going to be dated 8/16 through 9/20 of 2018. And we had read about that Chris only reads his Bible and he did not receive any additional reading material except the book, The Body of Evidence. So going on into part 37, we're going to be looking at the Weld County Sheriff J-Logs, the jail logs for the inmate. It says, narrative. Inmate Watts received 2 visits from lawyers today. This is dated Thursday, August the 16th at 11:55 a.m. 2018. He received 2 visits from lawyers today as well as inmate services. He was staffed to remain where he was. He has been polite, respectful with the interactions I have had with him. He had been laying down, staring at the top of his bunk or sitting on the edge of it staring at the floor. The deputy name was Medina. Date and time, Friday, August the 17th. The narrative. Inmate Watts slept all through the shift. He did respond to the face count, but did not get up at all. Okay, here is something I want to say, and I want to stop right here since we are on this part. On my computer, and I cannot remember how or where I got it. Who sent it to me, I can't remember. But it was actually one of the officers or jailers, I can't really remember, but they were employed at Weld County. And they were one of the ones that was over Chris and watching and observing him during his time at Weld. Okay, this person actually made some little short TikTok videos about it, and a lot of you may have already seen these. And if so, then you're not going to be interested maybe again, or maybe you are. Either way, for those of you that want to see those, I will put them in a video immediately following this one, so you can see and hear that officer talking about his time that he was over Chris and observing him while he was in Weld County. Now this was 11:55 a.m. the day of his court. So I'm assuming this is after court. I can't remember. I know his court was earlier in the morning, so this is probably after he got back from court, I'm assuming. And then at 4:14 a.m., 8/17, which is the day after his court, inmate Watts slept all through the shift. He did respond to the face count, but he did not get up at all. So all day, or that whole shift, he never got out of his bed. Okay, moving on down. This next report is going to be August the 17th, 12:57 p.m. And this narrative reads, Inmate Watts has been respectful and polite during my interactions with him. I have seen him a few times during my walks, staring off at the floor or the wall in front of him blankly. I have asked a few times if he was doing all right, or if he needed to talk, and he said no while giving a thumbs up. He was staffed today by inmate services to remain on blank, which I believe that probably means solitary confinement, or possibly suicide watch, I'm not sure. But I know that he was held like where he couldn't see anyone or make phone calls or any of the such until November the 15th. Throughout the day while doing my walks, I noticed Watts was still staring blankly in front of him again. I opened his cell door and let him know what I've seen over the last few hours and told him it was concerning. He said he was fine. He is just thinking about things and he's trying to exercise to keep busy. I told him that's a good idea and reassured him that if he needs to talk to someone, he needs to let the deputy know so we can make sure he is taken care of. He said he appreciated it. I asked him if he was feeling suicidal, and he told me he was not. I then asked him if he would let us know if he was, to which he told us, "I will definitely let someone know." Okay, this log is from September the 18th, 3:38 p.m. This is going to be Deputy Anderson and the subject quiet. The narrative reads, Watts keeps to himself. He is very calm and polite all day long. He will respond when staff ask him questions in a respectful manner. This one, September the 18th, 10:09 p.m. Observation is the subject. The narrative, Inmate Watts, Christopher, laid on his bunk and slept during the shift. He wakes up and acknowledges deputies and medical staff when they address him. He has not been actively attempting to harm himself during the shift. This one is going to be September the 19th. The start of his shift, 3:18. The end of his shift, 11:22. This is going to be Officer Dobson. The narrative, Inmate Watts Christopher either sat quietly or slept in his bunk all day. The only time he talked was to say thank you for lunch and to ask for toilet paper. Okay, going down, this is again Officer Dobson. Inmate Watts refused his hour out tonight when offered by myself and Deputy Penny. He rested during most of the shift, only speaking when he needed toilet paper. He was respectful and did not engage in any self-harming behavior. Officer Dobson again, September the 21st, 12:14 a.m. During routine walkthroughs early in the shift, I observed Inmate Watts, Christopher, setting up on his bunk and reading a book. The last 2 days, he has been laying down, staring in front of him, or sleeping. I approached him and shared my observation, and he informed me that he was just given the book today. Having a book to read seems to have significantly improved Inmate Watts's demeanor. So, from the J-log reports, it looks like that from the day Chris went to his first court appearance, which is August the 16th, until where we're at right now in this discovery, and it's on August the 21st, about 5 days from his first court appearance, it appears all he did was just stare out into space and sleep, and he was even refusing his 1 hour of being allowed to get out of lockdown or suicide watch or whatever, or solitary confinement's what it was, and he was refusing that 1 hour. He pretty much just stayed on his bed, stared out into space, and although respectful, didn't ask for anything or didn't talk to anybody. At this point, the only thing he's even asked them was for some toilet paper. Now, on August the 21st, they noticed that he was now reading a book. In case you're not aware, he was only, and we did just say that, he only had those 2 books. He had the Bible and a book called Body of Evidence. In Chris's second prison interview, Coder and Tammy Lee, they were kind of, I don't know, they seemed to be a bit taken back that he had that particular book. Well, he said that, I believe he said it was a jailer or an officer, somebody at the jail actually give him that book to read. And they were kind of, like, why would you have a book like that? But that is what he had. I've not read that book myself personally, but I'm curious what is in that book. Are you guys curious about that book as well? Is that a book that maybe we should look at, go into, and see what's in that book? Let me know if you think we should. If you do, we may just do that. Because that book would have really been the only sort of socialization that Chris had after his initial time that he was arrested, to actually have any sort of reading material other than the Bible, of course. And it makes me curious as to what is in that book. And I know some of you probably read the book. I haven't, but I'm very curious about it because it does state from this officer that it says having that book for him to read seemed to have significantly improved his demeanor, which I find kind of odd because just the name and title of the book leads me to believe body of evidence is, I don't know how that would improve your demeanor unless it was just giving him something to look at, or read or get his mind off something. Or was it the way a lot of us has actually looked at Chris is many things he's told to read or do or whatever. It's almost like planting seeds in Chris's head. So it makes me wonder about this book, or is this book just something that just gave him an outlet to sitting there looking at the ceiling? I don't know. But I'm personally going to look into that book. And if you guys want to hear about it through me, let me know. Because if I find something about that book that I think is very interesting, and you're interested in knowing it, I will tell you. If I look at this book and I don't see anything of any interest or anything like that, then I won't say another word about it. This is going to be Dobson again. This is going to be September the 22nd at 12:16 a.m. is the start time. It says, inmate Watts had a professional visitor tonight. I asked him after he was finished how his court from earlier today had gone. He said it had not gone well, but appeared to be content with it. He asked me how my days was, and I responded by telling him I'm here and alive, so I can't complain. He proceeded to ask how many days I work in a typical week here at the jail, and I told him the work week is typically 5 days, and he said okay as he entered his cell. I told him to have a good night, and he began to read his book in the cell and later went to sleep. Okay, the next report is going to be written September the 22nd at 4:50 p.m. It's going to be Deputy Cope's narrative. September the 21st, inmate returned from court, and on September the 21st, he did go to court. That is when he waived his preliminary hearing. He was given an opportunity to prepare with a shower early in the morning. He read his book after the shower when he returned to his cell. He doesn't hang around or make conversations with others. He was quiet and polite when he returned from court. He reads his book standing at times. Christopher Watts was seen this morning by Brandon. He was asked to call his public defender twice this morning, which he did. Number 1487, female voice. The first call lasted over 10 minutes. There was an inmate on blank laying on the floor next to the telephone. He was given his hour out and took a shower. After showering, he returned to his cell. He finished one book and asked if he could get another, and it was accommodated. After dinner, he dozed off, but was seen reading shortly after 17:15. He is very quiet and polite. He was asked to place a phone call to his attorney at 17:25 hours and was given the opportunity to make the call. It lasted less than 2 minutes, and he returned to his cell without issue. September the 23rd, 12:46 a.m., Dobson, and an observation. Narrative. Inmate Watts has been quiet throughout the shift. He asked for toilet paper once at approximately 1900, which I promptly provided him with. He continues to read in his bunk and refrains from any self-harming behavior. September the 24th, 12:36 a.m. Deputy Emery. Subject behavior. The narrative reads, Inmate spent most of the night reading in his bunk. The inmate appeared to sleep through the night. August the 23rd. Subject: General Behavior Observation. Deputy Tippett. Narrative: requested that he have his hour out in his unit. He stated that he would only need to take a shower and then return to his cell. I informed him that his hours out would be upstairs. Inmate Watts tried to manipulate the situation by stating that he would just be real quick and he wouldn't talk with anyone. I repeated that his hour out would be done upstairs. He accepted that and went back to his book. So he was pretty much trying to talk this deputy into letting him just take a shower down there where he was at, because he did not want to go upstairs. Because if you've heard the second quote-unquote confession, the interview when Tammy and Coder went to Wisconsin, he said anytime he went upstairs, they would have to lock down everything. And then the other inmates would scream and holler and cuss him and tell him he needed to kill himself, and he just didn't want to deal with that. So he was trying to get this deputy just to let him do it down there, and he would just be really quick. And the deputy was like, no, that's not going to happen. You're going to have to go upstairs. And so Chris was like, okay, and he went back to his book. But they said he did try to manipulate that situation just a bit. Okay, going on down, this one is going to be August the 25th at 8:28 a.m. Subject: J-Log, Deputy Archer. The narrative reads, inmate refused out today and decided to sleep. I have had no issues with this inmate, and he has complied with every directive given. Okay, moving on down to August the 26th at 10:29 a.m. Subject: Professional Visitor. Deputy's name: G. The narrative: today at approximately 10:30 a.m., inmate Watts had a professional visitor. All the windows were closed. Plastic bags were used to block the visibility and to provide privacy to inmate Watts. Okay, going on down. Again, this is going to be August the 26th at 2:21 p.m. And the subject is V-Pro, the Deputy Archer. The narrative: inmate Watts had a visit with his public defender today and no issues from him or the other inmates in S-Pod. September the 28th, 8:10 p.m. Observation of behavior. Subject: daily log. The Deputy Townsend, Unit S. Narrative: Christopher Watts was quiet when I took over this afternoon. He spent most of the day reading. He did eat dinner, and the housing unit as a whole was quite rambunctious today around dinner time. But Watts did not engage with any of this, and he just kept to himself. He had a V-Pro that started late this evening. I summoned the SOG deputies to escort him to the V-Pro room in accordance with the security memo, and we shut all of the sliders on the cell doors during the V-Pro room to maintain compliance with the security memo. The housing unit was very upset about having their sliders shut indefinitely because of his V-Pro room, and the unit made their collective feelings clear by booing Watts when he came out of his room. Okay, going on down. This one is going to be subject: reading, no issues. Deputy Stutt, Wednesday, August the 29th, 2:49, 2018, Unit S. Narrative: inmate Watts has been observed quietly laying in bed and reading his Bible. He was very polite and respectful in his interactions with the deputy and seems to be generally in good spirits. After lights out, he went to sleep and has caused no issues. 8:29, 7:14 p.m. Observation of behavior. Subject: daily log. Deputy Townsend, Unit S. Narrative: Inmate Christopher Watts was on a V-Pro when I go into the unit. All sliders were closed for the duration of the V-Pro in accordance with his security memo. When his V-Pro was done around 1640, he was moved back by two SOG members in accordance with his security memo. The unit was much less vocal today when he was being moved. Watts spent the remainder of the evening reading in his room quietly after he ate dinner. And let me just add in here, going through these J-logs, they're pretty interesting, really. It's almost like a diary that the deputies have to write on everything they observe him doing throughout the day. That is why I find it kind of interesting to watch like his hearings, like when he went to court on the 16th, and then when he went back to court to waive his preliminary hearing on the 21st. I find it interesting watching him in these courts and hearings, knowing that after he went back and before he went to them, this was his exact movements and what he was doing. It's just very interesting to me to observe Chris in the courtroom and then observe what he did before and after these court appearances. Okay, moving on down to August the 30th at 12:24 a.m. The deputy's name was Stutt. Subject, reading and slept. This is an observation of his behavior. The narrative reads, Inmate Watts was observed reading in his cell again until lights out, and then went to sleep. He had very little interaction with the deputy, as he did not request anything throughout the night. August the 30th, 3:28 p.m. Observation of behavior in the subject, Inmate Services Book. The Deputy Van Eaton. Narrative. Inmate Watts was approved per Sergeant Mueller to have a book from Inmate Services. This was given to him by Deputy Petzold. Thursday, August the 30th. Inmate Watts is not on discipline and therefore allowed a book. Okay, moving on down, we've got September the 30th at 8:22 p.m., which is the next shift. Subject, inmate found to have book, state that it came from his counselor. The book is taken. Deputy Townsend. Narrative. Inmate Christopher Watts was pretty quiet throughout the day. He ate dinner and did not speak to anyone else in his unit. It was found today by Deputy B that he had a book in his cell, in addition to his Bible. When B asked about this, Chris explained that his counselor had given it to him. B explained to Watts that at this time, inmates in this housing unit are not allowed to have books aside from the primary religious text. Watts handed over the book to Deputy B without issue. August 31st, 3:33 a.m. Subject, setting in cell reading. Narrative. Inmate Watts has been observed sitting in his cell either reading or seemingly doing nothing, to where he would be looking at the door as I approached him. He would smile and nod his head at me. He asked for his toilet to be flushed, which I did, and then went to sleep after lights out. September the 31st, 7:57 p.m. Deputy Townsend. Inmate Watts Christopher Lee spent his day quietly reading, and he did eat dinner. August the 1st, 3:40 a.m. Deputy Stutt. Narrative. Inmate Watts has been observed reading in bed. No issues to report. September the 1st, 5:39 p.m. Deputy G. Narrative. Today I interacted with Inmate Watts briefly. Specifically, I observed Inmate Watts working out. When asked how he was feeling, he said okay. Also, throughout the day I observed him reading his book. He remained polite and respectful today. He read and exercised. So it seems through the whole month, from the time he was arrested until September the 1st, 2nd, actually September the 2nd, Chris, the only thing he did was lay around in his cell reading when he could, when he had a book to read, going out for his 1 hour sometimes. He didn't always do that. He didn't want to. And he had like one visitor, and it was his defensive team. It doesn't say anything about him making any sort of phone calls yet, and the visitor being his defense team, of course. And it looks like on September the 1st or 2nd, he actually started trying to move around and exercise a little bit, but until that point, he had done nothing but lay, sleep, stare at the ceiling, and read the Bible and random books he could get a hold of, including the very first book, The Body of Evidence, which I'm still very curious about. September the 2nd, 2:33 a.m. Deputy Placenza. Inmate Watts spent a majority of his evening reading a book. He has been respectful to deputies and has not caused any negative issues. As indicated earlier, he elected to not take his hour out this evening, so he doesn't really like going out much, you know. He's of his own choice. He doesn't want to go have his shower and have that hour because he has to go upstairs, and well, it's not very he's not very much a hero upstairs. They holler some very bad things to him that really upsets him. You need to kill yourself, you need to just die, and calling him names, and well, just to be honest, everything he actually deserves. But yeah, he just couldn't really like handling that, so many times he chose not to take that hour and just to stay in his cell, hidden in his quote-unquote safe zone, the actual closest safe zone he could get at this point. September the 3rd, 2018 at 12:13 a.m. Narrative. Watts read a book for the majority of the evening. He has been respectful and communicates when communicated to. He has not caused any negative issues this evening. September the 4th, 2018, 4:02 a.m. Inmate Watts completed his visit with his attorney at approximately 18:30 hours, and that is around 6:30 p.m. SOG moved him from the V-Pro room to his cell with no issues. He was respectful this evening and did not cause any issues in the pod. Start date, September the 4th, 3:31 p.m. Deputy Archer. Narrative. Inmate Watts asked what I did before this and if I liked working here, and how long I'd been here. September the 5th, 4:16 a.m. Deputy P. Inmate Watts sat on his cot most of the evening and read his book. He is respectful and hasn't caused any negative issues. September the 5th, 9:34 a.m. Deputy G. Today, Inmate Watts was given a different book from Inmate Service Brandon. I switched out his old book with the new book, Body of Evidence. The book was inspected prior to giving it to him. Well, I'm glad they inspected it. And there was an Inmate Service from Inmate Service Brandon. I'm glad they inspected this book, Body of Evidence, because I plan to inspect it myself. I'm curious about that book. Okay, September the 7th, 2:06 a.m. Reading Bible, no issues. Inmate Watts was observed reading his Bible and sleeping. He caused no issues. He continues to have little to no interaction with the deputies, but seems calm and receptive when spoken to. September the 8th, 2:35 a.m. Reading, no issues. Deputy Stutt. Inmate Watts was quiet and compliant this evening. Reading in his room, he slept and caused no issues. 9/8, 2:59 p.m. Deputy Rice. Inmate Watts has mostly been reading his Bible and laying on his mat all day. No issues from this inmate. September the 9th, 5:46 a.m. Deputy Stutt. Inmate Watts was observed reading in his cell. No issues to report. September the 12th, 4:46 p.m. Deputy Metcalf. Watts had a professional visit today at approximately 16:45 hours, and that would be 4:45 p.m. All of the window shades of Unit S were closed while inmate Watts was removed from his cell and during his professional visit. September the 13th, 2:24 p.m. Deputy Archer. Deputy Archer, 0238, cleaned inmate Watts' cell while he was on his hour out today. Thursday, September the 13th, 2018. September the 13th, 12 a.m. Observation of behavior from Deputy Andrews. Inmate was quiet and respectful tonight. Inmate did not even react when several other inmates in the unit were yelling to him. September the 15th. September the 15th, 12:02 a.m. Deputy Andrews. Inmate has remained very quiet and polite. Inmate rarely asks for anything and is respectful when he does. September the 15th, 3:08 p.m. Deputy Meredith. He has been very quiet. He mainly reads or sleeps during the shift. He follows directive and is polite and respectful. I have had no issues. September the 16th, 8:47 a.m. Deputy Meredith. Inmate took his hour out today. I've had no issues from him. He has mainly been sleeping or reading his Bible. September the 18th, 12:29 p.m. Deputy Meredith. On 9/18 at approximately 12:25, Inmate Roberts was talking to Inmate Watts through the vents. I was not able to hear what they were talking about. Inmate returned to his window shortly after this, and this must have been a inmate in a cell next to him, and they were talking to each other through the vents. And this other guy that was in the cell next to him, his last name was Robert. September the 20th, 8:31 a.m. Deputy Aguirre. Inmate started his hour out at 8 a.m. and he had access to the phones, shower, newspaper, and exercise room. Okay, so this tells you that they did give him access to the phones on September the 20th, which was on a Thursday, at 8 a.m. Now, we do know that his parents or family, sister, no one spoke with Chris from the time he was arrested until the day before the sentencing of his plea deal, which was November the 15th. However, Chris did state that there was one time when he was at Weld that he did try to call his dad and he couldn't get an answer. Maybe that was this time that he had access to the phone. September the 20th, 5:52 p.m. Deputy Men. Inmate Watts has been very quiet. He was polite going to and from the V-Pro for his visit and cooperative during cuffing and search. He ate all of his dinner and spent the time I observed him sitting on his bunk reading his Bible. I certify this is true and accurate copy as held by the Weld County Sheriff's Office. And of course he signed the HIPAA compliance form. Okay, that's all the J-logs, so we're going to stop this video right here because at the end of this video, I want to talk to you a few minutes about the J-logs. It seems Chris was very cooperative. We all know that it has been said that from the moment he was arrested on August the 15th, basically might as well say August the 16th, but from the time he went in August the 15th for his polygraph, obviously he never left, but from that point on, after he confessed, he was not allowed to talk to his parents, his sister, no one except, of course, his defense team. It is said that, and I don't know, but I do believe it, that he was in his cell in like a paper gown, and he was just there until the day before his plea deal, which would have been November the 15th, because his plea deal his sentencing was November the 16th. and he had had no communication with his family, either by phone or visit, until the 15th, and when they let his mom and dad come in to talk to him on the 15th. It is said, and it is a fact, it is in the discovery, that his mom did try to bring up the plea deal, and is this something he really wants to do? Is he sure he wants to do this? And Chris's defense team shut her down and said, we're not going to be talking about the plea. And I will quote the words given to Miss Watts, if you bring the plea up or something to that effect, we will shut the shit down now. In other words, she would have to leave and would not get to talk to her son before sentencing the next day. Chris not having any phone calls to any of his family, to anyone outside his defense team from the time he was arrested until the time he went to his sentencing, I do find a bit odd, absolutely. However, as we just seen in the J-log, he was eventually given that phone privilege, at least that one time. That is the only time in the J-log it mentioned the telephone privilege. So that is possibly when he did try to call his dad and he didn't get an answer. I don't know, but I believe it is because that is the last of the J-logs that we have access to. Okay, that said, as I stated earlier, I do have all of the hearings and court appearances that Chris did in front of the judge on the channel. I find them very interesting, especially after reading the J-logs and knowing what he did before and after each court appearance. To me, that's interesting. Things like that are observing him and then hearing his actions and demeanor and things like that before and after. Also, as I said before, there is a guy that worked at Weld, and he has made his own videos with his face, and he was kind of explaining the little bit of time he spent with Chris and what he's seen in Chris and this, that, and the other. I will also, and I want to give the person credit that sent these to me, and I know someone did because I do not have a TikTok, so I can't really remember where I got them, who sent them to me. I can't remember, but I've got it. So I'm going to put that in a video as well for you to listen to this guy because it's pretty interesting. Some of you may have already heard it and some may not. Either way, it's interesting. These J-logs, even though they seem like they don't tell much, to me they do. And yeah, I find them very interesting. His behavior, his movements, what he was doing. And yes, I'm going to check out that book, Body of Evidence. Okay, guys. I hope you learned something new from this part 37 of the discovery. I would really appreciate a thumbs up. It does help the channel more than you know. And until next time, thank you so much for listening. Have a great day, night, evening, wherever you may be. This is Unjustified.